Good morning. Welcome to Manito United Methodist virtual service. We're glad you could join us. Won't you come in?
Good morning. Welcome to Manito United Methodist Church. We are so glad that you're here to worship with us virtually this morning. Will you please join me in our call to worship? We are creatures of habit.
We are comforted by the familiar.
We are creatures of habit.
And we miss our worship and ministry routines.
We are creatures of habit.
Who are learning new ways to be the church in these difficult times.
Please join us in singing Gather Us In.
I have a few announcements to share with you this morning, but first I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all of those who have mothered in a myriad of ways. Due to the governor's stay home, stay healthy order and the extension of the bishop's directive regarding worship and building closures, Manito will continue to worship online and the physical office will remain closed through May 31st. Our staff will continue to monitor the email Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., as well as monitor any voicemail messages left during those times. If you are missing out on gathering with your fellow community members here at Manito, please consider joining us for a fellowship coffee hour on Zoom. It happens each Sunday after service. Just email me, Pastor DeTienne, @gmail.com, and I'll send you the information on how to join us. Manito is still finding ways to serve others in our community. If you have been looking for a way to help, why not consider making a donation to one of our ministry partners? Each week, The church sends out an updated list of donation needs for Shalom Ministries and Family Promise. And we have a dedicated team of individuals who can receive your donations on Wednesday from 1:30 to 2 p.m. in the church parking lot on 33rd across from the church building. Just bring your items to the drop-off location and our team will transfer them to our ministry partners. Let's move into our time of prayer. Please remember to keep our Manito friends, family, and loved ones in your prayers this week. We have prayers for protection for Cynthia Ramoff's sister, Dr. Laura Kirkman, Doug and Tiffany Adams, and Patty Hervey. Prayers for healing and recovery for Evelyn Torkelson's brother, Larry Barty, Sheila and Pam, Dolores Sauer, Shelley Cuny, Jill Longmire, Eleanor Miller, Wes and Peggy Ackerman's granddaughter, Keely Raybon, Jody Lever, Dave Grenick, Phyllis Everest, Carol Swedberg, Jerry Porter, Gail Glass, and Janelle Branson. Please join me in prayer. God, we give you thanks for this virtual gathering, for the opportunity to worship you together even as we sit separately at home. We ask that you would come and meet us in our worship today, that we would sense your presence, and that you would remind each of us that you care for us and we are not alone. God, we miss our familiar routines, our worship habits. We miss our friends and family. We are creatures of habit, and all these changes have been difficult and draining. We confess that it has been hard to do church differently, to be the gathered community virtually, to serve others and grow in our faith as we keep a physical distance. And yet we believe that we can still be the church in the season of change. Please grant us fresh vision of what that might look like, of what it might look like for us to be the church in these uncertain times. God, even now, our lives are not without joyful moments, and we want to give you thanks for the many good and joyful things you have blessed us with, and we take a moment to silently lift our thanks to you for those gifts now. God, we carry many burdens with us into this place. We are burdened by things happening in our community and world, burdened by things happening in our own lives and in the lives of those we love and care about. God, in this moment of silence, we lift up the burdens on our hearts to you in prayer. God, we lift up our community, country, and world. We ask that you would be at work, bringing your justice, hope, and peace where they are absent. Help us to partner with you in your kingdom work. Please join me in the prayer that Jesus taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Our scripture reading today comes to us from John, chapter 14, verses 1 through 14. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way to the place where I am going. And Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way? And Jesus said to him, I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you know me, you will know my Father also. From now on, you do know him, and you have seen him. Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father, and we'll be satisfied. Jesus said to him, have I been with you all this time, Philip, and you still do not know me? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own, but the Father who dwells in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. But if you do not, then believe me because of the works themselves. Very truly, I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact, will do works greater than these, because I am going to the Father. I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If in my name you ask for anything, I will do it. Holy wisdom, holy word.
Thanks be to God.
People are creatures of habits, aren't they? You and I need to look no further than our own pews on a Sunday morning to know it's true. You all have your seats. Even now, as this building is closed, I can look out across the sanctuary and imagine where each and every one of you is sitting. Ministers and churches worldwide have been trying to find ways to help sanctuaries feel less empty as they record Sunday morning worship. A movement even started where pastors or church staff would take photos of their church members in the pews, so the minister could feel less alone while they were preaching to their church community. After a minister posted a photo of the pictures on their pews, they received a phone call from a church member. And they were calling because they had seen the photo and they noticed someone was sitting in their seat. We're creatures of habit, aren't we? One of our staff members here at Manito decided to get in on the fun that had been happening in other churches. So when I showed up to record service a few weeks ago, I looked out to see your photos on the pews. The photos in the pews brought a huge smile to my face. And I had a good laugh because most, if not all of you, were in the wrong seats. I'll let you in on a secret. We ministers are creatures of habit too. I once worked for a senior pastor who had called a church family to check on them because he hadn't seen them in several weeks. Upon receiving the call, the family laughed, and the minister wondered why, and they said, Pastor, we've been there every Sunday. We just switched our pew. And my senior pastor had thought the family was missing because he had been looking for them in their regular seats. He hadn't even thought of looking for their faces in a different pew. We are all creatures of habit. In college, there was this guy named Dave who made a point to sit in a different seat every day in every class. So one day, Dave landed next to me, and I asked him, why he changed seats every day. And he said, people are creatures of habit and tend to sit in the same places. But by moving seats, I have been able to meet and get to know so many new people. Dave also admitted that it was kind of fun to watch the person whose seat he had taken have to find a new seat. You see, Dave had figured out that being a creature of habit can hold us back sometimes. It can keep us from trying new things and meeting new people. Everybody on campus knew Dave. And the reason they knew Dave was because he was willing to get out of his old familiar ruts and routines. He was willing to do something that was uncomfortable to gain a new point of view because it allowed him to meet new people and have new experiences. I think Dave would even say that his willingness to break free from normal habits enhanced his life. And until recently, you and I have been very comfortable. We've been comfortable for a long time, haven't we? Most of us haven't even thought about how we are creatures of habit because most of our habits and routines had never been questioned or prohibited. Until now, that is. With the coronavirus and the subsequent orders from the governor and the directives from the bishop, our habits and routines have changed drastically. And as a faith community, the coronavirus has catapulted us out of our sanctuaries, out of our seats, into the great unknown. A world without pews, a faith without in-person gatherings or worship, a church without an active building. And the change has been hard, and not one that we asked for, but it is where we are right now. Today's text is a part of what's called the Farewell Discourse, which is a collection of texts that deal with Jesus' attempts to prepare his followers for his departure. Jesus was trying to prepare his followers for all the changes that were about to come, to help them make the leap from the familiar to something new, to help prepare them to continue his mission and ministry after he was gone. He wanted to give them tools, the tools they would need to be successful, to survive as they journeyed through his death, resurrection, ascension, and into a future of doing ministry without his physical presence among them. But they were struggling to accept it. The disciples couldn't imagine continuing the mission and ministry of Jesus without him. How could they go on without his physical presence among them? It was unthinkable. And that was why this is such a great text for us to wrestle with this morning. Because we, like the disciples, have found ourselves in a season of drastic change. Some of us may be finding it hard to believe that we can continue to carry out our mission and ministry while remaining physically distant from each other, from our church building. For so long, we have equated church and its ministries and worship with our ability to gather in person, in our building, in our sanctuary, while sitting in our regular seats. And then all of a sudden, poof, it was all gone, all taken away, and it will be some time before things return to what we would call normal again. In some ways, it feels like the rug has been pulled out from under us, and Jesus' disciples knew that feeling well. The feeling of having everything you are used to taken away. The feeling of having to start again. We are in a new era, And we, like the disciples, are going to need to adapt to the changes that come our way. And that we need to continue on our way so that we can carry out the mission and ministry of Jesus in these unprecedented times. But man, we are creatures of habit who are being forced to create new habits. And it is hard and even painful at times. In today's text, Jesus tells his disciples, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe in me." Sometimes in seasons of trouble or change, our hearts and emotions can run away with us, can't they? And Jesus knew his disciples would need this reminder, especially as the world as they knew it changed before their eyes. He wanted them to hang their hearts on him, to keep the faith. But this reminder wasn't really what the disciples wanted to hear. What they wanted to hear was that nothing was going to change, that Jesus' physical presence was going to stay with them, that life would continue as normal. But instead, Jesus was telling them that he was going away. He promised that one day they would be together again, but that all seemed a little nebulous. Jesus' reassurance wasn't really cutting it. They had questions, like where exactly was Jesus going? Because they were pretty sure they didn't know. And if they didn't know, how were they ever going to find him? Maybe Jesus could show them one more miraculous miracle. Just show us the Father, will you? Then maybe we won't be so nervous about all the things you were telling us. And Jesus is probably a little lovingly frustrated by this point. You just don't get it, do you? You've been with me. You have been with the Father. Every teaching, every action, every amazing miracle, that was the Father. And now, in this season of my physical absence, you are going to be the ones to carry out God's mission and ministry in the world. If you trust me, you'll do even greater things than I have done. I am passing my ministry to you. When I'm gone, it's your turn to carry it out. And I'll provide you with anything you need to carry out God's mission and ministry in the world. You just have to ask. And none of this was what the disciples wanted to hear right now. What they wanted to hear was nothing is going to change, that Jesus and his physical presence would always be with them. And in some ways, we want the same thing. We want to go back to normal, for nothing to change, but things have changed, and they will continue to do so for a while. And in this season, you and I are going to have to hang our hearts on God. We are going to need to keep the faith, to believe that God will get us through this season. You and I are used to the absence or distance of Jesus, but not of our buildings or our ability to gather in person. You and I have become ministers in a new landscape where we are physically distant from all the ways we are used to carrying out God's mission and ministry in our community. We can no longer lean on our physical building or the phrase, "we've always done it that way," because it's all changed. And like Jesus' followers, we have questions too. We are worried too. How will we carry out the mission and ministry of the church now that everything has changed? How can we be the church when we are physically distant from all that we found comfort in, from all the ways that we're used to carrying out our mission and ministry. We can, because we already are. And because this isn't the first time followers of Jesus have thrived in seasons of hardship. Jesus' death and resurrection and ascension were by no means the end of his mission or ministry in the world. They were just the beginning. The physical distance of Jesus from his disciples didn't hamper the mission and ministry of God at all. It actually enhanced it. And not only that, it allowed the disciples to engage more fully in carrying out God's mission and ministry in their world. We are creatures of habit, and I recognize that when we have to change our habits, it's painful at first. But sometimes being a creature of habit can hold us back, keep us from trying new things and meeting new people. I have been amazed at the resiliency of this community. You have tried to pivot and adapt during this season of physical distancing, and I am deeply grateful for that. I have seen you dream new ways to do support ministry. Just every Wednesday, there's a group in the parking lot who waits to receive donations so that our ministry partners continue to receive support. You found new ways to do Sunday school, small groups, and even choir. I have watched you agree to act as care group leaders for other church members and witness new relationships form as a result of it. I have seen you reach out and check on your neighbors and friends who don't even attend this community. I've experienced your desire to help our community and city find hope during this hard season. Manito, you are being the church. You are doing ministry in a whole new way. And you are doing it all without a building while maintaining physical distance from one another. And that is hard. And even with all the ways the world has changed, you are still being the church. And God is still at work. But I also want you to hear this. Although we are still being the church, we are also grieving. And I don't want to minimize the grief that we are feeling in this season, because change is hard. We miss the way things used to be. I miss the way things used to be. And that's okay. But let us not become paralyzed by our grief. We are a resurrection people. We know that death is not the end, only a chance for new life. So what new life might God be calling us to do as a community in this new and difficult season?
Please join me in singing hymn number 77, How Great Thou Art.
I see
Thank you for the ways that you continue to faithfully support our church community with your prayers, virtual and physically distant presence, gifts, service, and witness. It is because of you that our community is able to continue to worship and celebrate, serve others, grow in our faith, and create a lasting and meaningful friendship with others. I leave you with this benediction this morning. May you and I hang our hearts on God in this difficult season, and may we have faith that this is not the end, only an invitation to a new beginning. Go with God's peace this morning. Amen.